At least 78 Palestinians were killed in Gaza on Monday, including dozens seeking food, according to local health officials. The latest death toll comes as aid organizations warn of mass starvation across the enclave. Trucks carrying food have been allowed to enter Gaza since Sunday after Israel announced partial pauses in military activity for humanitarian purposes. Let's speak now about the humanitarian situation in Gaza with Sarah Davies. She's the spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross for Israel and the occupied territories. She joins us from Jerusalem today. Sarah, thanks for being with us. Tell me, is aid from your organization now flowing more smoothly into Gaza?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. There has been an increase in aid that enters, but it's very, very important to reiterate that it is not enough. The aid that is currently entering is still not enough to meet the needs that exist in every aspect of life for Palestinians who live in Gaza, from food to hygiene items to medical equipment to things like pots and pans, electrical chargers for people's phones, which are a lifeline for them. We welcome that there is an increase in aid right now, but we do reiterate that much more needs to enter and be able to be safely and effectively distributed to those who need it most across the entire Gaza Strip.
Jordan has been airlifting aid into Gaza. Germany wants to join those efforts, but critics say these kinds of aid deliveries through the air are expensive, inefficient, and dangerous. How does the ICRC see that?
For the International Committee of the Red Cross, airdrops really are a last resort. As you said, there are a variety of challenges when it comes to airdrops, not least being that they need to have space on the ground free of people and objects, free of buildings. And right now, we would usually have, in any other conflict where we used airdrops, we would have staff on the ground to ensure the safe release and retrieval of these. That does not currently exist in Gaza. These circumstances don't exist. So unfortunately, what we see is that people run after the airdrops. Previously in this conflict, we have already seen people killed and injured. We have seen buildings hit by airdrops. So we really emphasize that the most efficient way is land transportation to begin to even meet the needs of those in Gaza right now.
Once the aid is in Gaza, it needs to be distributed, and every aid organization is responsible for their own items. The ICRC, for instance, especially for medical supplies, if I'm not mistaken. Just paint us a picture here. What challenges are you and your staff on the ground facing at the moment to get these goods that are now starting to trickle in distributed to where they're needed the most?
There are a variety of challenges when you work in any conflict zone. Things like geographical terrain. Roads have been damaged, they have been destroyed, pipes have been damaged in hostilities, there is flooding. The sheer number of people who move around in many different places, whether that be because they feel unsafe where they are or because they receive evacuation orders. There is the risk of things like unexploded ordnance. There really is a variety of challenges. And of course, every single day we assess where the needs lay most. We do medical donations of equipment to other medical facilities as well in Gaza because the healthcare system is very, very much struggling right now. And more supplies are needed to replenish the stock that is used when we see high numbers of patients, which unfortunately is the case. So we have to assess all the time because it is a very volatile situation. We welcome any proposed pause that would allow the hostilities to cease temporarily in order for the trucks to move more efficiently, in order to reach more places, and especially because it will offer a respite to civilians on the ground from the constant explosions, from the constant noise. But as I have said, more needs to enter in a sustained way. It needs to be unimpeded and it needs to be continual in order to meet the needs of a very, very wide range that exist in Gaza.
Yeah. The Israeli Prime Minister claims there is no starvation in Gaza, and I'm quoting him verbatim here. You and your colleagues have more insights than many others. Do you share the Prime Minister's assessment?
The Prime Minister has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has said that there is no starvation in Gaza. He has sa As a neutral organisation, the International Committee of the Red Cross, we will take any of our concerns directly to the parties themselves, directly to the authorities. What I can speak about is what our team sees at the Red Cross Field Hospital on the ground, and that is that people are desperate, people are injured, and we do receive patients that are showing signs of malnutrition. We know that for months, people have not had enough food, and we've seen this impact their recovery. If people have amputations, if they have emergency surgeries, if they have severe burns, they need a certain number of calories each day in order to recover properly, and they are simply not getting that. Right now, we can only offer one meal a day, usually rice that is potentially flavoured with pepper or turmeric, to the patients and the caretakers at the field hospital. We know every single day parents wake up struggling to feed their children, struggling to get enough safe drinking water, struggling to access enough medicine and enough hygiene items. That is the unfortunate reality of what civilians are living through on the ground in Gaza every single day right now.
That was Sarah Davies from the International Committee of the Red Cross. Thank you so much for your time, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
At a United Nations meeting on a two-state solution in the Middle East, France has called on the European Union to pressure Israel to come to the negotiating table. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot, together with his Saudi counterpart, said the time for a political solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was now. Barrot urged the European Commission to pressure Israel to remove its financial blockade, stop settlement building in the West Bank, and end the, quote, militarized food delivery system. Meanwhile, for the first time since the October 7 attacks by Hamas, two major Israeli human rights groups have accused Israel's government of committing genocide in Gaza.
In the strongest accusation yet from within Israel, the rights groups B'Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights Israel have concluded that the war in Gaza amounts to genocide, as defined by international law. In reports published Monday, they cite evidence of Israeli actions that, in their words, aim to intentionally destroy Palestinian society in Gaza.
For the past 22 months, we have witnessed unprecedented levels of civilian killings, of deliberate starvation, forced mass displacement, and the total destruction of most infrastructure necessary for human and social existence. The people of Gaza have been displaced, bombed, and starved, left completely stripped of their humanity and rights.
Israel vehemently denies committing genocide in Gaza, often calling the charge anti-Semitic, including in an ongoing case at the International Court of Justice. It says it's fighting an existential war against Hamas and abides by international legal frameworks.
Now, when it comes to this accusation of genocide, yes, of course, we have free speech here in Israel, but we strongly reject the accusation. It is baseless. There is no intent. Key for the charge of genocide, there is no intent.
Meanwhile, global attention to the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza has been intensifying, with UN agencies warning of mass starvation, which Israel also denies. But some of Israel's closest allies have begun speaking out more sharply about conditions in Gaza, including the German Chancellor.
Israel must immediately improve the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza in a comprehensive and sustainable manner. Israel must provide the suffering civilian population with rapid, safe, and adequate humanitarian and medical aid.
While the two Israeli rights groups place primary responsibility on Israel, they also accuse its allies of enabling what they describe as a genocidal campaign against Gaza.
In the face of genocide, our duty is to struggle to stop it. The international community has not only failed in its duty to stop the atrocities, but also share responsibility by providing support that enables Israel acts of destruction. We call for an urgent action from international community, from the Israeli society, and from every person who's listening to us. Genocide, at its core, is an assault on humanity itself.
Though opposition to the Gaza war remains deeply controversial in Israel, this is a powerful appeal from within the country, challenging not just the government, but the world.
A challenge, too, for the German government, which is one of Israel's closest allies. Let's take a closer look at that and bring in our political correspondent, Giulia Saudelli, who's in Berlin. Giulia, the German Security Cabinet met yesterday to discuss the situation in Gaza. What came out of that meeting?
I think the most concrete conclusion coming from that meeting is that German Chancellor Merz announced that Germany will initiate an air bridge to Gaza together with its partner Jordan to airdrop aid into Gaza. And this is something that he said the German defense minister will continue to discuss also with Germany's other partners, France and the UK, who Matt said are prepared to also provide an air bridge to deliver food and medical supplies to people in Gaza. And Matt himself said that this is just a small contribution to try to alleviate the disastrous humanitarian situation in Gaza. But he said that Germany is happy to be able to contribute in this way. What also came out of the meeting is that the Security Cabinet, which is made up of some of the top officials within Germany's government, discussed also the question of Palestinian statehood, given that France recently announced that they would recognize Palestinian statehood. And the German Security Cabinet decided they would stick to Germany's position, which is that a recognition can only come as the final step in a process that would lead to a two-state solution. So there won't be any change in Germany's policy on Palestinian statehood.
The Jordanian king is actually in Berlin today, where he's meeting the chancellor, and they're expected to, of course, have Gaza at the very top of their agenda. Giulia, the EU is examining sanctions against Israel and considering a suspension of its association agreement with Israel. Germany has in the past been very critical of such moves. Where does the German government stand on that right now?
So we know that discussions are probably going on within the government and between Germany and its other allies, especially in the EU. And we've heard from Chancellor Merz and from other statements coming from joint statements also with these other countries that Germany said it is ready to consider possible other steps to put pressure on the Israeli government. But whether it would be prepared to go ahead with sanctions, well, that might be a step too far for Germany, also because of the country's history, because of the role that Germany played in murdering 6 million Jews during the Holocaust. Germany is one of Israel's closest allies, and it feels a special responsibility towards Israel, and it has been supporting the state of Israel, but also Israel's government almost unconditionally. And we have seen a toughening of the tone coming from the German government and Chancellor Merz towards Israel, especially looking at what is happening in Gaza. He called how Israel and the IDF are acting in Gaza unacceptable, but it's unclear whether Germany would be ready to take that step to, for example, agree to suspend the association agreement with Israel, or whether it would be willing to stop weapon deliveries to Israel.
All that said, domestic pressure is also growing on the German government to reconsider its stance on Israel's war in Gaza. What are the realistic options on the table for Chancellor Merz here, Giulia? And what discussions are maybe also happening behind closed doors these days?
It's not only about closed doors. We see some of the pressure and the tensions also building within the German government coalition between the two parties in the coalition, Merz's Conservatives and the Social Democrats. And some leading Social Democrats have come out and criticized the position of Merz and the government, including Merz's own development minister from the SPD, the Social Democrats, who said she would have liked to see Germany sign a joint statement by around 30 other countries calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Germany didn't do that. We've seen members of the Social Democrats call for a stop to weapons deliveries and to suspend the association agreement. So far, we haven't seen the government really budge in this direction, though.
DW political correspondent Giulia Saudelli. Thanks so much, Giulia.